Looking to hopefully do a in-person meeting soon, in the next year. So hopefully you'll be able to see everybody and start this. So yeah, if you're close to Quebec City and you're used to joining the Montreal one, please join up on the ace.atlassian.com page for a Quebec City Ace, and then we'll keep in touch for future events. But yeah, and if you hear yelling, screaming, and stuff, I'm technically on paternity leave right now with a 2-week-old and a 1-year-old upstairs, so things are happening. So, yeah.
JP, did you move to Quebec City, or are you still?
Yeah,
Montreal?
I'm close to Quebec City, but I didn't move to Quebec City exactly.
Nice.
I love Quebec City. And that's where Danny is this week, by the way. He was supposed to be here, but he and his wife are on holidays in Quebec City. They were supposed to go to Germany, but COVID put a stop to that. Anyways, this is really fun to do a joint group. I also want to give out kudos to Jimmy. Jimmy Sedin is an online community leader, but is in Eastern Canada as well, just Kitchener-Waterloo, just an hour away from me. Hey, Jimmy, say hi.
Hi, I'm actually looking forward to being able to make it up to Toronto at some point. So,
yeah, we haven't started the in-person ones yet. Joanne and I will chat about those. Yeah. All right. So this is very exciting. Let's see. How do I make this go forward? Oh, there we go. I just want to let you know what our agenda is going to be today. We're going to have very Christmas themed, holiday themed events. We're having the 12 Confluence Best Practices for Christmas, a gift to Confluence and Mint by K15 and Matt Reiner. We're then going to have a little fun break and do the ugly Christmas sweater contest, which is going to be judged by Joanne Yo from Atlassian, our channel partner, our channel manager for Canada. Is that right? Yeah, got it right. Then we're going to move on to have a Holly Jolly Jira, and that's going to be presented by Phil Heinkoop, I don't think I pronounced that right, from ALM Works. Phil Heinkoop from ALM Works. And then we're going to finish up with a holiday quiz that's going to be done on the Zoom. It's the first time doing it. I tried to test it out on people. It might be hit and miss, but don't worry, I've got lots of prizes, even if you don't get any good answers right. First of all, we have to give a huge thank you. It's really sad for us that this is the second year we're not able to do a holiday party in person. We usually have a large one. But even though, and our sponsors have been really true and really great and holding and still sponsoring us online when they can't sponsor us in person. So big thank you to Blended Perspectives, IT Methods, Avant Systems Groups, Daptivus, Valiantus, and I see Pierre down there, K15, Matt, and ALM Works, Phil. So thank you so much. We could not do it without you. And they have all generously given some e-gift cards. So get ready for quiz time and to win some gifts. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to the 12 Confluence Best Practices of Christmas, a gift to Confluence and Mins. Can everybody please mute? And we're going to let Matt take it away.
All right. Well, happy holidays, everyone. It's getting to be that time of year once again where things slow down a bit for all of us, hopefully. Projects are wrapping up. We get to sort of take a little bit of a deep breath, knowing that January, probably, week 2, the onslaught will begin again. And really having time to focus on our work, especially for a lot of people here, maybe we're Confluence admins, it's so important for us to keep our tool set in tip-top shape, to be, making sure things are up to date, make sure we're staying at the latest, all those fun things we get to do, but also somehow we're also responsible for showing everybody else how to use our tools. And so that can take a lot of time, maybe more time than we would love. But in this time of calm, or hopefully we're approaching the calm, I was hoping that I could share a few gifts with everyone here, whether you're a power user who's helping your teammates, or you're an admin who's answering sort of an onslaught of questions. Our gift to you from K15T is how to reduce the noise. Yes, the noise. It's for the Grinch fans out there. And so I'd like to present the 12 Confluence best practices of Christmas. Now you might be saying, Christmas, it's not my holiday, why not Kwanzaa, why not Hanukkah? But it was like, 7 best practices, 8 best practices, or 12 best practices. I just figured I'd go for the 12. So I'm going to go with that if you'll join me for that journey. If you want only 7 or 8, you can just step away after 7 or 8, and we'll just keep going. But I think there will be some here that you've heard of, but there's probably some that your colleagues haven't heard of. And there may be some that are new here to you. Also, I'm going to try to keep them as bite-sized as possible because a lot of little gifts sometimes is more fun than one big one. Well, we'll see. And of course, because we started off with some music and because this is all based on a song, I should probably sing it a little bit, right? So on the first day of Christmas, my admin gave to me comments, threads, and @mentions for you. So comments in Confluence, they're really great, and you may be familiar with them, but we've actually found out that a lot of people aren't. A lot of people that use Confluence have no idea that they exist. And first, we have inline comments, which are super valuable, right? Because you can comment on content directly in place. And that is really, really valuable. And then, of course, we have this area at the bottom of the page where we can have more general conversations around all of the content in the page. This is really important for places where you're starting to get, hypothetical, you're talking about all of the content, you need to start strategizing on what it is you're talking about. That's where people need to drop in and have a conversation. And the value of those is they're threaded, right? So if you are using an inline comment and that just starts a conversation about the whole piece, things tend to get all messed up in a really bad way. So that's when you want to drop down into that thread so that people coming afterward can see, oh, okay, this was the question and these were the answers and this was the final decision. And then, of course, there's @mentions, which you might be thinking, okay, but everybody knows about @mentions. No, definitely not. So in the year of 2021, not only did we learn at K15T that most users don't know about comments, they also don't know about @mentions. So if you don't know, now you know. @mentions are incredibly powerful because we can draw our colleagues into the conversation that we're having. So this is the heart and soul of collaboration in Confluence. And you may be serving people or working with people that don't know this exists. So please pass this present on to them. Now, on the second day of Christmas, my admin gave to me sharing content directly with an @mention. And this is really important because a lot of people just use that big blue share button, which is great, but @mentions are particularly useful for drawing people into work that you need them to do. If you send somebody something with the share button, you'll just get a URL that you can put into Slack, or they'll get an email notification. But when you @mention someone, they'll get a direct notification in the Confluence app. They'll get an email with the title, blah, 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 mentioned you in that email title. It's a great way to create action-oriented feedback processes, which is maybe not news to us if we're used to living in Confluence, but for those colleagues who are outside of Confluence, an @mention changes the game completely, because all of a sudden I have an email that says I need to jump in and do something. That makes feedback processes much more direct and dynamic. You don't have comments or requests that are just hanging out there waiting for, I don't know, someone to do something. With @mentions, you can make it a very, very direct request for collaboration. With that said, it also means that you need to be direct about resolving inline comments when action has been taken, so that at any point somebody can skim through the page, see those inline comments and see, okay, is there work for me to do here, or is it all done? Is the page complete? Now on the the third day of Christmas, my admin gave to me commenting like a pro. Yes, you can comment like a pro. You always start commenting by asking, should I actually add a comment here? That's why this talk is about best practices and not just Confluence features, because we don't always need to comment. Think about, is the thing you're about to say in a comment actually useful? Or should you have a face-to-face conversation? Should you jump on a Zoom call because you need to say more than should actually be said in a comment? Also, sometimes it's just better to jump into the page and start making changes rather than saying, oh, you should have a comma here. Oh, there should be a period here. Oh, you used the wrong tense, especially if you're working with colleagues who maybe you're working in a non-native language for them. Work with them to figure out how comfortable are they with that? Are they okay with you making minor changes like fixing typos, or are they okay with you maybe restructuring their sentences so they are grammatically correct? Nobody wants to show up at a Confluence page that they asked for a proofread on or feedback on and find 50 comments that say, oh, hey, like, please add a comma here, that sort of thing. Now, on the 4th day of Christmas, my admin gave to me title prefixes for logical groupings of pages. Who wrote this stuff? We really like using prefixes on our page titles at K15T. And that's when you add just like a couple of letters at the beginning of a page title to really help people find that content and understand what it's all about. Like, for example, if I search for getting started here, I'm going to see a bunch of different content. But if I use the prefix DSG or design style guide, instantly I see the exact result that I want at the top of Confluence search results. It's a Christmas miracle. It's pure holiday magic. And of course, I can also just search for DSG here to find all of the pages related to my design style guide. So I've hacked the search results into being a perfect, list of all of the things related to this particular topic that I'm interested in. But also prefixes play really, really nicely into page structures in Confluence. That hierarchy works really, really well with a parent page that might say design style guide, and then all the child pages with that DSG prefix attached right to them. Now you can also use date prefixes and all sorts of other things, but that's another gift for another time. Now on the 5th day of Christmas, my admin gave to me filtering in advanced search. Phil, I thought you were coming in with a piano here. Filtering in advanced search is a lifesaver. If you're not finding the results that you're looking for, you can hit that advanced search button and you'll be glad you did. There's a lot going on here. One of the things is you're going to find more results because not only will you see pages returned, you'll also see spaces and attachments and third-party data types, like maybe, a diagram. You can also use the area on the right-hand side to filter down content. There have been massive improvements to search in Confluence Cloud, but it's still not Google yet. So these filters are great for things like, oh, hey, I'm actually looking for an attachment with this name or a space with this name. Also, you can look for things like labels, which we'll talk about how important those could be in the future. But say I want to find a hackathon project about this smart app thing that I'm searching for. This instantly narrows down the search results. So as great as Confluence Cloud Search is becoming, this is really how we can tame it down. And this is something that we can share with all of our users who are looking for valuable content. We got to work with search. It's still growing up. Now on the 6th day of Christmas, my admin gave to me unified and incredibly powerful set of standardized page labels. Jeez. Yeah, page labels. They are the easiest to add element and perhaps the most powerful in Confluence, but also the easiest to mess up and make a total tire fire of. See, users can easily add a label just by typing it into the box, and Confluence does try to suggest ones that have already been used, but often people can just go astray and add some random label. But the real strength in labels is when we use them consistently across similar types of pages. Now, it is great that users, do get a suggestion about labels as they're typing something in, but sometimes we do have to step in and clean things up after the fact. But with the right labels on pages, you can connect your content in all sorts of cool ways that are beyond just team spaces or any spaces throughout Confluence. So for example, you could use a content by label macro to display all of the projects across your entire organization in one page, no matter where they are in whatever space. As long as they have the label project on them, you can just pull them together totally dynamically, really, really quickly. That kind of thing is amazing. You could also display all of your branding resources by adding the I don't know, marketing label onto all of your attachments that have your logo, your typefaces, that sort of thing. You can see, excuse me, also what labels are currently in use by using the labels list macro, or you can see the ones that are popular. You know, if you're saying, hey, we want to clean up our labels a little bit, let's see what people are using. You can use the popular labels macro to have a good list of that. So you can maintain things over time and make sure that labels are staying clean and powerful. Now, on the 7th day of Christmas, my admin gave to me templates that are in a useful place, which is not always accurate. See, templates are great when they're used. They bring consistency to our content and to our pages. It even helps put the pages in the right spot. But unfortunately, many times people forget to actually use them. So you can use a create from template macro to help people along. So with the macro, you can choose that great template that you've made. You can even, you know, customize the text on the button, and you can even add a custom title to the page. This is really great because people don't have to think about what template they actually want to use. They just look at the page. They say, oh, okay, these are all of our projects. I'm going to click this button to create a project, and it's going to open up that project template that you spent so much time working on. Now, this is really cool because it starts down that journey of creating really consistent content, but that particular macro is limited. So I would encourage you to go on the marketplace and check out my team's new free app called Create from Template Pro, which lets you do even cooler things like adding variables in the page title, controlling exactly where that page lives. So you could send it to some other, you know, under some other page in some other space if you want. You can even customize the look of the button to give it a nice holiday color. So check out Create from Template Pro, which is basically the Create from Template button that we've always wanted. So we just made it and put it out on the marketplace. On the 8th day of Christmas, my admin gave to me powerful pages filled with incredibly useful properties and labels. Went up a key and said that way too much there. Yes, page properties and labels are the bread and butter of powerful Confluence content. So when you're creating the same types of pages in Confluence over and over again, there's often details that are consistent between all of the pages. Now, some people would refer to that type of information as metadata, but in Confluence, you can think about it sort of in two different ways. There's properties in a nice table, and then of course, there's really good labels. And that lets you do cool stuff like this, where I have one page where I'm listing out all the important information that's found on multiple pages all at once. Now, we can do that using two different techniques. The first would be on each page, like your project page or whatever type of page it is, add the page properties macro. And the page properties macro includes a table that just has key value pairs. That's the technical name. So it might be something like, what's the marketing content title? And then write the title. What's the due date? And write the due date. The team members. What external resources are in use? That's just a table with properties in it. And then, of course, on that same page, you can add a couple of great labels to help identify what it is. From there, you can use the page properties report macro on a parent page, just like this one we're looking at, and you can list out hundreds of these pages and just look at the important details of each one. And you can filter all of the pages in your entire Confluence instance using those valuable labels that you've already added to them. So powerful, so little time to talk about. On the 9th day of Christmas, my admin gave to me a single piece of content included all over the place. Yes, you can create content on just a single page in Confluence and reuse it all over the place. So imagine you have some legal terms that you wrote on a page. You can use the include page macro to go and select that particular page and display the content of that page on any other page in Confluence. So your legal team could write the content once and you could reuse it everywhere, invisibly. No one will know that they're looking at reused content. You could go at any point and update that single page with reusable content, and that will update on every page it's reused on. The abilities to reuse content in Confluence is sort of mind-boggling. You can get incredibly into it. In fact, you could even separate your content into a separate area in your space or a whole nother space called a content reuse library. And you could fill that library with all sorts of pages that you're reusing all over your organization. The legal terms, use case alone is incredibly valuable. You can see how writing something once and having it be reused everywhere is really, really helpful. But that goes for a lot of other content that we use. And there's also excerpt macros, which you can do some really cool content reuse stuff with, but I don't have time to talk about it. Because on the 10th day of Christmas, my admin gave to me well-structured pages. Yeah, people are made to skim content, and our pages need to be made to be skimmed. Yeah, they have to be like masterpieces of skimming. So with all of the tools we have at our disposal, here's a few. One is using some content formatting and some content color, some font colors. Use them, when limited fashion, because people with disabilities can't read all of those things. And because people are visual, try to use at least one meaningful picture or diagram if you can. And then finally, you could use the expand macro to hide what I like to call bonus content. Bonus content is like the content on a page that not everybody needs to see. Not everybody needs to see it immediately because it's maybe difficult to skim through, but some folks would want to expand to see that content. This is a double-edged sword because you really don't want to hide important content for people. You want to show them the content that actually matters to them. Now, with all of these things, be very careful that your page doesn't rely on them. If someone has a visual impairment, if someone is colorblind, they shouldn't have to rely on your formatting or your color to understand the content of the page. But it's amazing how just a little bit of formatting can help draw out the most important content for your readers, which in the end is the most important thing with everything we do in Confluence, is to give your teammates the information they need to be successful. So on the 11th day of Christmas, my admin gave to me clearly formatted tables. Yes, clearly formatted tables. We really like making big, huge Confluence tables at K15T, just like everybody else here. But sometimes, almost all the time, people don't like reading them. So only include essential information in a table. We often add information that's not really needed, remove that content so that what is left in the page is the most valuable for everyone looking through the page. Also, use emoji to replace text. I don't mean use emoji everywhere, but in situations where you say like yes or no in a table, you could very clearly replace that with a symbol that's easier to identify and easier to skim through. Also, align your tables vertically. So in this case, it would make more sense for this table to be aligned by name because the name of the person is the most important thing. And that's just sort of how our brains like to read through tables. So I've reformatted it completely. Also, and this can be the hardest for us big table lovers, split your content apart. If you start to see the table become too big or just very big, chances are it's too big for your readers. It's better for everyone to break that into separate tables grouped around certain topics than to keep it in one gigantic database, because that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to maintain a database in Confluence. We're trying to help people find the information they really, really need. On the 12th day of Christmas, my admin gave to me the ability to share spaces externally. Yeah, sometimes we need to get content out of Confluence, whether a teammate just isn't in Confluence or you're sharing with a client. And there are two great options. One is you can export the entirety of a space as a PDF, either the entire space or you can select certain parts of the space. And it'll export as this really, fairly basically formatted but useful PDF with an interactive table of contents. This is just great if someone's like, hey, I'm not in Confluence. Can you get this to me? Now, I'm kind of bummed out because you can't also do this as a Word file, which I understand a lot of our teams use Word, but there are apps for that on the marketplace. My team makes one called Scroll Word Exporter. There are options. One of the nice things about this is you can work in Confluence with your team and share it externally with another team. Obviously, you want to get them into Confluence eventually, but this is okay. One thing you should know is you have to be a space admin to be able to do this. So not everybody using this space can. The other option is you can share the space completely externally, like as a sort of a mini wiki website, by using a feature called anonymous access. So anonymous access is a permission setting that you enable globally in Confluence, and then you can set individual spaces to be anonymously accessible. Don't panic, admins. I can hear your heavy breathing. No, this does not open your entire Confluence instance to the internet, only specific spaces. But this can be great. You know, if you have a customer support space where you have a lot of knowledge base articles, that can be a way to share it out with people. And the nice thing is also you have control over what people can do. So they can just look at the content, or you can enable it so that anonymous people can add to it or comment on it or like it. It's all up to you. You have total control. Oh, well, and by you, I mean the space admins, because the space admins can do that for their space. Now, you can go even crazier, and you could use apps like Scroll Viewport that my team makes to turn it into a whole help center website. But that is, you know, a whole nother best practice tip. And this is tip number 12. So the 12 Confluence best practices of Christmas, you know, based on the song, I should probably sing through all of them as fast as I possibly can. I wish I had a little bit of eggnog on board, but here it goes. The ability to share spaces externally, clearly formatted tables, well-structured pages, a single piece of content included all over the place, powerful pages filled with incredibly useful properties and labels, templates that are very useful in every place, unified and incredibly powerful set of standardized page labels, filtering and advanced search, tables, prefixes for logical groupings of pages, commenting like a pro, sharing content with an @ mention, and comments and @ mentions and comment threads for everyone. Wow. Okay.
I'm impressed.
We do have a few minutes here for questions. I know I went over all of these incredibly fast. There's so much more I could talk about. Nothing more that I will sing about. I promise you that. Any questions, comments, things that I missed, or you know, anything else?
I have a question. I'll start.
Yeah.
On number 8, if I don't know if you can go back to tip number 8, if that's going to mess up your screen, but you had a little green kind of content indexer off to the right on the page. I just don't know how one does that. That one, the little green thing, useful resources. How do you make that?
Yeah, that's a tip macro with a content by label macro inside of it, I think.
Okay, but how does it end up kind of inserted there? Did you do that with sections, or is that?
Yes, I think that's inside of a section. Yep.
Okay, that was
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
curious. Yeah, and then the other
Yeah,
thing, and then the other thing of wording is that we use include, and at one I used an include into a page that was actually part of a service desk space. Didn't work out. So yeah, don't use them on
Yes,
those
that's
ones. Yeah. I was like,
yes,
oops.
the Confluence permission structure is powerful. So
Right.
if you are including content, make sure that, yeah, especially with Service Desk, it does all sorts of mystical things with permissions. So make sure that the people viewing the content have the permissions to see the included content. Yes, very, very tricky business. We actually had to just update Scroll Viewport, our app, to specifically handle content inclusions, because they're, you know, it's good that it's secure, but yeah, great. Great point, Susan. Thank you. Yeah, Carolyn, it looks like you have a question, or you want a high five?
Also, very nice presentation. This reminded me a lot of things. And actually, I hadn't used the commenting on an image in a while, but I was just doing it this morning, and I had remembered, and that was one of your tips, also like inline commenting and all this, which I'm trying to use more heavily, but I couldn't actually figure out, it didn't have the same menu as like a PDF does. And I actually just double checked the documentation, and it does say images in there, and it's a PNG. So I'm like, does anyone know if something changed? Because there's literally no way to like pin the comments or do anything in an image, you know.
Yes, that was a change introduced with the new Confluence Cloud editor. Are you using Confluence Cloud?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the new editor, they regressed on that feature. So currently you cannot comment on an image. I don't know that I'm trying to remember if they've listed that they're working on that.
It
That's
does
a
say
no.
on the new editor as well. In this, I was thinking the same thing about the editor, but then I was like, this content applies to the legacy editor and the new editor.
Really? Oh, wow.
thought-
I was just trying to do that like yesterday. So Well, somebody got a bag of coal for Christmas. Yeah, maybe that's regressed.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. Special Christmas present for anybody who figures out how to comment on an image in Confluence Cloud.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well,
Interesting.
at least
All
I'm
right.
not going crazy. That's usually
Yeah.
good.
We're all going crazy together.
Mhm.
Any other questions or tips or musical interludes?
I've actually got a quick one about two things you mentioned. One was the naming of pages. Did you then later say that one of your apps does the thing where you can use variables in page names? Is that a good use for it?
So it's not variables in like existing pages. It's variables in the page name that's sort of just inserted into the page title when you create a new page from a template.
Okay.
So when somebody clicks the button, a dialog comes up and says, hey, insert or type in the name of the project and, what other variables. And then when they're put into the editor with the template, that title is already inserted. So really powerful for consistency.
Yeah, I can use that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you go again over how you did the labels?
Yeah, wow, there's so much to be said about labels. So the label field is very similar to how labels work in Jira. So when somebody starts to type a label, it will try to suggest existing labels to users. Sometimes users use those and sometimes users do not, which is kind of a bummer. So one best practice that we found is there's two macros out there. So one is popular labels. So that will just list all of the labels that are currently in use and how popular they are. You can even get like a heat map view. And then the other one is, what is it called? I think it's labels list. And that will list every label that's used. You can even filter that down like per space. So we find those are useful if somebody on the team is monitoring. Like maybe you have a space where you kind of need to keep that pretty well controlled. Like all of your projects are in there. So you want to make sure that the labels are applied properly. So you might have a page within there where someone can sort of look at that as a report and see, okay, are there any outliers? You can even sort of use like an allow list or do not allow list. So you could have all your standard labels filtered out. So you're only seeing the labels that should not be used or ones that are just not correctly formatted. Often that happens too. Somebody will just type one in that's got a typo or something like that. And then consistency is just really important in general. Yeah, there's a lot more to be said about labels. We actually have a whole video about them on our YouTube channel. It's kind of more than the 2 minutes that I had. Yeah, also there's a lot of great Confluence macros that take advantage of labels as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, well, to kick us out, because we're almost at the end here, I just wanted to point you out, I like giving people stuff. So if we also have this site called Rock the Docs that's full of best practices for Confluence. It started out just for like technical writing in Confluence, but it's grown. We keep adding articles for all sorts of how to do this, the best way to do that sort of thing in Confluence. And then also this month, if this was not enough best practices for you or your teammates, we also are doing 24 days of additional Confluence best practices. So if you follow us every day, we open a new door on our Advent calendar and we share another 1 minute best practice video. The great thing about these is they're guaranteed to be 1 minute because that's what the format allows. So these are great for learning, but also sharing, especially for those colleagues that are like, how do I do this? Or what's the best way to do this? You can share those. And of course, if you find K15T on YouTube, I think we have 16 Confluence best practice videos as well. So we're just trying to share everything we've learned about Confluence in the very best ways possible. So I'm going to pass it back to Susan, and I'm really looking forward to Phil's rendition of "Oh Christmas Tree," all about Confluence or Jira custom fields.
Where do we find that Rock the Docs?
Yeah, where do we find Rock the Docs? That would be helpful.
We have a terrible URL because GoDaddy is trying to get us to, pay a ransom price. If you just Google Rock the Docs, you will find it. It'll be at the very top. I would love to say you can go to rockthedocs.com, but we don't have rockthedocs.com. But yeah, that should help you. Or find K15T on YouTube. There's a bunch of stuff there as well. And if there are best practices that we haven't talked about that you would love to share, or want to know more about, let us know. We started doing live streams as well, so love to have you come on and share it with whoever joins, or we'll make a video on it.
Thank you so much. I can't believe you sang your way through that. I'm impressed, and
Me
I
either.
have recorded it. Even worse.
I'm so sorry, everyone.
All right, we're going to move on to our contest. So what we're going to do here is, Joanne, you're the one who is judging this. How would you like us to stand up if we've got a shirt on, or do you want to put
Yes,
speaker view on?
Yeah, I mean, if whoever has some Festivus Christmas holiday stuff on, if you can kind of
Stand up
stand
and
up so then I
put
can
your
see
video
your
on.
sweater
Stand
better,
up.
or
Get your
your
sweater there.
okay. I see like a Hawaiian shirt, Christmas styles, and a Catmas sweater, and oh my gosh, Jimmy. So am I like? Do you need to explain what that logo is? Should I know?
It's The Legend of Zelda, which is a video game.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, of course you would
That's
have
very
that.
nerdy. Very nerdy. I love it.
I must get that from my nerdy sons. Mine has a special feature. This is the 16 days till Christmas, and you can change it as Velcro. You
Oh my
change
God,
the
that's
days. So
awesome.
like 16 sleeps till Santa. Something like that.
Awesome. Pierre, I thought you were wearing a sweater. Oh, there's Irene's sweater. Very cute.
Pierre, put your sweater on. Come
Yeah,
on.
put your sweater on and show your face, Pierre.
Let me show you. You see it?
Stand up more. You can see how ugly his is. Incredible.
Okay. Okay.
This is,
Oh, I don't know. Irene's yours is kind of like
Gosh.
mine with the
I feel like-
Santa.
I feel like I might have to win for ugliest sweater. No. Yeah.
We
Gosh.
need three winners, Joanne. I have
Oh, three
prizes.
winners. Okay.
3 winners. Yeah.
All right. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm going to have to pick Jimmy's because it's pretty damn cool that I had to ask what that logo was. And
Jimmy,
super-
I need to know where you got that from. I might order it for my sons.
yeah, no.
I got it
Jimmy
at DB
was
Games 3 years
Okay.
ago. So
I'll look
I
it
got
up.
it at a video game store, surprisingly enough.
Right.
And I do have to pick Carolyn's just because I'm partial to cats. So
Aw.
I really do love
Meowy
that one.
Christmas.
I love your
too.
cat one. I
Yes,
love your cat one.
absolutely. And gosh, the last one. I'm gonna have to choose Alex's because it's pretty ugly. And yeah, and I love that it's like a Hawaiian shirt and not really like an actual sweater too. So
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. That was really fun.
Susie.
Yeah, I am going to go back to sharing my screen. I'm so bad at this too. Okay, put my power video back up.
maybe
Okay.
if we had said what the prizes were, more people would have dressed up.
Oh, so the prizes for sorry, am I shared or not? I don't know. Am I sharing it?
No.
Not yet.
Okay, sorry, my bad. It's really hard. I'm trying to do too many things at once. I apologize. There we go. All right, get that out of the way. Now, can you see?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the prizes are, and please email Toronto_Canada@AtlassianCommunity.com. I've written down some of you, and it is a tremendous gift card. So you will receive a tremendous gift card. I think it's $25 each. So you get to buy like something fun for Christmas for yourself, or maybe get another ugly sweater. So we're going to move on to our next presenter. And Phil, I hope you're ready to start. And I wonder if you're going to take on the singing challenge or not. But I am going to stop sharing and present Phil. How do you pronounce your last name?
Haycoop.
Haycoop. Okay, Phil Haycoop from ALM Works. Thank you so much. Here we go. Take it away.
All right.
Everybody
Thank
mute.
you. I will not go with the custom field, or whatever Matt had tried to set me up for. My humor is a little more visual, so hopefully that will be appreciated here. So today we'll talk a little bit about how to have a holly jolly Christmas, and in particular not have to worry about your Jira app strategy. This applies both to cloud and to on-prem, even though you kind of have to manage your apps a little differently in the two. So I'm going to talk about some pretty big Scrabble words when it comes to the app stuff. So governance, enablement, app evaluation. I want to talk about it both as a potential new app versus also just regularly checking in, like, hey, do we still use this? And then at the end, I'll have a little vexillology, which is anything about flags. So we're going to do some red flags and green flags about apps. This is where hopefully we can get a little bit of interactivity going. So ideally, if you can use the reactions at the bottom from Zoom, you can do the green check mark if you think it's going to be a red flag, and or a green flag, sorry, and the do no if you think it's going to be a red flag. So first, let's get through some of the topics. So the app governance is the first one, which is a really fancy word, really complicated. But what is app governance really? And so what it really comes down to is an extension of how you manage Jira. So how do you want to use it, and how do you make sure that your users are doing it that particular way? So this includes things like workflows. What do you want to have your attachments? In particular, questions like what information should live in Jira versus what shouldn't, like what should go to Confluence, what should be stored elsewhere. And these are decisions that extend to the way your apps kind of work. How do you want to do that? Mostly surrounding kind of data integrity, which is a really fancy way of saying like you don't want it to mess up your stuff. So the obvious example would be like, you don't want to have someone evaluate an app, it downloads or it creates 10 different custom fields on all your tickets. You think, oh, I really don't like this app, so we end the evaluation, but all those custom fields are still here. That would be suboptimal. So these are kind of little things in terms of like, hey, if we're going to evaluate an app, if we're going to add something on it, that is something we want to know about, so that, you know, afterwards we can do a little cleanup, garbage collection, whatever you want to call it, and then make sure that things kind of work as they should. This also has some relation to enablement. I'll show you that in a minute. But one of the things that I think is really important is making sure that your permissions are consistent. So most people, Jira admins, will spend a good bit of time setting up permissions in a way that makes sense for their organization, right? Some people will have kind of open by default. Other people have things a little bit more controlled, especially if they work in a more regulated industry. And so you want to be very deliberate about how your permissions are set up and how those things kind of work with your apps. There are a lot of really powerful apps out there that you might want to set up and have like only certain people with certain roles have access to or can use. So you want to have that kind of control. So you want to be able to say, hey, these users can use Script Runner, and this is how we'll do it. Or Structure, which is the app we make. They also have some very powerful features. So you might want to be able to say like, hey, this stuff you can use if you've passed, you know, this check, or you've went through this course, or you sign this piece of paper that says, hey, if I break this, we'll take away your keys and no longer have access to these things. I've seen all those things, and generally speaking, that you want to have as an option. So that's kind of stuff that you want to look at. And when you have all these things in place, you don't have to worry about like, all right, well, tomorrow something might happen, and then we have to like dig in and figure out who broke what and how do we fix it and how do we make sure it doesn't break in the future. This way, you know, all those options kind of going forward. And then last thing is just have a system set up, obviously, for if you want to add a new app, this is how you go about requesting it. If you want to change how certain apps work, this is how we go through it. So making sure you can do those things obviously is just kind of good to have written down. These are also emphatically things that belong in Confluence. So there's a little tie into Matt's topic. Just a quick example in structure. So we have a feature called automation. It allows you to set up rules that build everything out. So they're kind of like filters for Jira boards, but on steroids. And you can set access to that based on the groups that already exist, based on the Jira roles that you have already set up. So just little things like, are these options available? How do I set them up? Who controls what? How do I add people there? Having all those things set up in one place, knowing that they exist, make for a slightly less worrisome Christmas for admins, generally speaking. Next comes app enablement. So this is a little bit more focused around users in particular. So app enablement focuses really on the use of the tools. How do we get people to use them correctly? And how do people kind of know what correctly looks like? And I love the term foolproof because it always kind of underestimates, the ingenuity of fools. But generally speaking, we're going to talk about these questions, right? Will the end users, in this particular case, I mean, Jira end users, know how the app works? In particular, this kind of ties into things like, this is a workflow app, or this is an automation app, or this is something that kind of does something after a user action. Do the users need to know that the app exists, that this is how the process works, or can we make it a little bit more kind of black box, hand wavy? It just does it because it does it kind of thing. Sometimes that's the better strategy because not everybody needs to know the nuts and bolts of how we got here. Why does it do what it wants to do? Script runner is a great example of that. For example, you don't have to explain how the scripts work all the time. If it's running in the background and it's listening to certain events, you just need to know that if you do this, this happens. That's fine. So they don't need to know that the app exists. But for other people, it's useful to know that those are options like project managers, admins, things like that. They might want to use those functionality to make their lives easier and everybody else's lives easier. So you want to potentially have places for them to submit requests, right? Not everybody needs access to get something to work a certain way. You can also just use some sort of access control to these things, evaluate if their request is reasonable, and then, implement it for them. The other thing is, will the users of the app be trained in the use? And the use correctly, obviously, is kind of implied there. What that really means is that you'll have user training. A lot of that should be part of your onboarding for Jira in general, in particular, if you're going to start using advanced roadmaps, big picture, structure, tempo. All these apps have a way to work. You got to learn how they do them, how those things fit into your internal processes. And so having all that kind of stuff together is helpful. So we generally recommend those things go together with your Jira onboarding. If you don't have Jira onboarding as part of any new user onboarding, that's probably where to start. I've seen a lot of places think that, oh, we'll deal with that later, or some colleague will explain it to them. And that is a surefire way to lose data consistency, and things will go pear-shaped or other fruit-shaped very quickly. And use the vendors. They all have great wikis, all of them on Confluence. So it's very easy to kind of cut and paste what you need. So you don't have to kind of reinvent the wheel all the time. And the last thing, can we get help when we inevitably need it? Stuff breaks. As we saw this week, Amazon can go down, or at least partially. And so one of the things you really want to know is, how do vendors support you? And whether it's in the enablement side, whether it's in the training side, whether it's in just like, hey, if it breaks, this is what happens. And you want to know what that looks like. And it's good to have kind of a list of things when, like, hey, if this goes down, this is what happens. Does Jira become unusable, or do certain functionalities or people have to find alternate routes? So it's good to have these kind of like, hey, we have a fallback plan. If Jira breaks, or if we lose certain functionality, this is how to do it. And you can either queue things up, write them down, whatever the process, depends a little bit, obviously, on what exactly is broken. And I highly recommend, especially to get the answers to these things, to talk to colleagues. So go to the ACE, go to the Atlassian community, if an app vendor makes you wait 6 hours before they even reply to you when your Jira instance is down, they should probably go on the naughty list and maybe look elsewhere for those things. These are kind of relatively important things in the relationship between vendor and user of these apps, especially where Jira is really kind of a mission critical thing. So the next one, if my slides want to keep going, is the app evaluation. So generally speaking, Jira apps, and I think the same as for Confluence, is you can evaluate an app to see if it works for you. And I know a lot of people will set up kind of a demo instance, a staging instance, or they'll spin up something new on just a random URL just to test it out, which is a good idea. Atlassian is fairly generous in how they allow apps to be evaluated for a month, and you can kind of take it for a test drive, so to speak. And there are a few things that, or a few hoops you should make the apps jump through before you think, all right, these are the things we want. This is good. And I recommend checking periodically for DC customers who use like regular update schedules and things like that, yearly, 18 months, every 2 years. It's good to just kind of do a regular review. You'll have a process. For cloud apps, I would recommend building that in, even though you don't have to do the updating yourself anymore. You don't have to worry about updates. You don't have to worry about like, hey, there's going to be some downtime because we're rolling out whatever new version of Jira. But you'll still want to occasionally check in, like, hey, are we still using this thing because we're paying for it? So the first thing to check, obviously, does the app meet your standards? Does it still meet those? You can have internal ITsec approval, so IT security. You'll have your own standards. Cake Light is a common one that we've been doing with Atlassian. You want to review things like stability, how quickly do certain bugs get fixed, both UI bugs and critical bugs. And you can see a lot of these things in the marketplace. There are going to be little badges in terms of like, you know, they support this, they're part of the Cloud Fortified program. There's a lot of different ways and dimensions to approve these things. But obviously, there's a general trend of approval and things that go in, and then, you know, what you guys need out of it. So will the app and the vendor support your needs right now? Will it do what you want? Do you need to have an onboarding plan, an on-ramping plan where you incrementally get more people to do it? And knowing all these things, typically in terms of how the app behaves, how you need it internally, will make your life easier, because knowing what that looks like means you're not going to get surprised when that day eventually shows up. A few other things that are worth looking at on, and we'll cover it in a minute with my little semaphore convention, as I've called it, is what's the vendor like? Do they respond to comments? Do they actively respond and offer answers to community questions? Are they active in, you know, conversations with support, or is it, you know, like pulling teeth and you have to send 3 reminders to get them to reply to something? You can see things like app version history and the release cadence and stuff like that, and reviews by others on the marketplace. So I highly recommend you do that, use those resources. But honestly, nothing quite beats experience. So if you have a colleague that's already used it, or you know someone at the ACE or somewhere else that has used it, you know, they can tell you a lot more because they've been on the other side of it than anyone else can tell you on the marketplace. Like, a review is useful. Someone who says, oh, this was awesome, but it took a week to really kind of get a feel for it, that's useful insight that you can use to plan. And so there's a lot of stuff, you know, little decisions like that that make it easy for you to know, like, hey, this thing, we can just flip a switch, it's on, everybody's happy because it's self-evident. This thing we need to plan around, onboard, talk to people. You know, not that one is necessarily better than the other, like certain little things are easier, certain big changes you can integrate with agile and digital transformations. So that said, let's go to our little flag contest. So I'm hoping that you guys will use your little reactions and tell me if the snapshot I've gotten from either the marketplace or the Atlassian community is an indicator of a red flag or a green flag. So the first one is the version history. This is, so these are all real examples. Names have been omitted to protect the innocent. But if you look at the version history for an app, and the last thing that was updated was well over 6 years ago, I think we all know which one this is going. So we'll start with the easy one. That is indeed definitely not a good sign. Some apps just aren't supported anymore, and that's okay. It's good to know these things, but you'd rather know these things obviously in advance. Here's a cloud app. So they have not completed the self-assessment. So the bottom one is the most important or egregious foul here. There's a marketplace bug bounty program. Most large vendors are part of it. But generally speaking, if you see two of these little yellow triangles with the exclamation mark, yes, exactly. Also, red flag. So one of my favorite ones recently, because I was obviously trolling the marketplace to get these examples, came from this one. It's a new app. It is brand spanking new. It got released a little over a month ago. It has no reviews. It only has a cloud version. There is literally nothing information-wise. The vendor also is new, so they don't have any other apps to look at here. So what would you say about this one? No, nothing red. That's good, but nothing green, right? So this is kind of the trick question. I'm going to put this in the yellow flag category. So generally speaking, it's not a problem when an app has no history. Obviously, you got to start somewhere, right? But knowing that you are the first person to evaluate something and you have literally no one to compare anything to is kind of the unknown, and it changes a little bit what your expectation should be from a vendor if they have no history. If they've been part of the ecosystem for 10 years and they know everybody and they're on first name basis with Mike Cannon Brooks and everybody else, you can probably assume that they'll be around for another couple of years and you can build on it. So you're making longer term decisions than the time it takes some people to build these apps. This is just something to keep in mind. Not to say any new app obviously is not trustworthy, but they're a little unproven. So decide whether you want to be the first person to jump in with them or not. So I've combined a few things here, and it's actually kind of cool that Nick is here because he was making a cameo over here. So there's the Cloud Fortified, which is a badge that you can see on a cloud instance. I've got the little green security check marks, both for the Marketplace Bug Bounty Program, and the partner has the security self-assessment. These two in the middle are community posts. So whether they are not just answering community posts, but also have accepted answers so that they're actually useful. We see the occasional necro posting where someone will type in on a thread from 2017. It's like, hey, we made an app to solve this for you. That's not super helpful. But when you have responsiveness and people from other companies in particular recommending the app, that's usually a really good sign because no one will put their reputation on the line, especially not someone who's been around the block more than a few times like Nick in the community. I think he's got several awards at this point. That, if they're willing to say this is useful, this is good, whether it's from an Adaptivist or Valiantis or any of the partners that have a reputation to protect, that's probably worth keeping an eye on. And then at the bottom here, more reviews. If reviews are generally good, that's helpful. You can see kind of how many installs, how many the Cloud Fortified, there's a migration assistant, they're supported. So these are indeed what we call the green flag. So I found this thing, I couldn't not share it with you, and see that Susan loved it. But this will allow you to kind of make sure that if this is what your apps all look like, then you can kind of go on vacation and enjoy the sun a little bit. So thank you. Apologies for not singing to you guys, but I think I did you guys a favor by skipping that section. Happy to answer any questions, or if anybody wants to follow up with anything, they can always ping me on that email address.
So do we have any questions? I have one.
And if anybody wants a copy of some of those pictures, I'm happy to send those as well.
What's your response to these people that take a free app and then make it grossly commercial? Not naming anybody, of course.
I guess it depends on what the goals are, right? You can think of it
Mhm.
also as an investment. If they take a free app, something that exists, and they say, hey, we're going to invest and make this even better, and we know everybody's doing it, then I think that that's worth it. If they are just buying up apps or just taking them and making them paid after a certain amount of time, but there's the paid element doesn't correspond to a return over that period of time, then it's definitely something to review. Again, without naming any names, but that's kind of how I think about it.
Having been caught, when you have, and Nick can speak to this as well, when you've had a really older version of Jira where a lot of apps were free in the beginning, including ScriptRunner, right? Nick, do you remember when ScriptRunner was free?
Yeah,
That's a while
absolutely.
ago.
But when they went commercial, they said, these are the reasons and this is what you're going to get out of it. And remember, the support was all free for that on Atlassian Answers at the time. So it was definitely value added. But I've had others that they go commercial and the price is atrocious. I'm going, for that? No.
Yeah, what happened with ScriptRunner was that Jamie wrote ScriptRunner to help himself with the work he was doing, the paid work he was doing, and made it free and just gave it to everybody. And then Simon, the CEO of Adaptivist, said to Jamie, I've been chasing him for years, can we buy it off you? But the reason we made it paid was we then said to Jamie, and we'll give you a team of developers so you can keep up with it, so you can do that support, and you'll be in charge of it, and you'll be looking after it, and it'll be your baby, still be your baby. So he was like, yeah, all right, I'm now getting paid to maintain ScriptRunner. So that's why it went commercial, and I think that's the right reason to start paying for a plugin, because we rapidly developed it. Otherwise, it probably wouldn't have gone very far. And it's also got ScriptRunner Confluence, ScriptRunner for the cloud as well, because we're able to get paid for it. We're able to develop more stuff
To do it, exactly.
Yeah.
Any other questions before we have a quiz? All righty. Do you want to thank you very much, Phil? That was really interesting. I like the red flag, yellow flag, green flag. I certainly look for that, having made mistakes in the past of getting some plugins just went nowhere or just corrupted or died, and then I'd search around and try to find another one. I tend to rather prefer to pay for one up front now, because I usually feel there's a commitment there rather than taking a chance on a free one. It's my 2 cents.
Yeah, it's establishing a relationship, I think, is the best metaphor I've ever heard about it. Like,
Yeah.
you want to consider it a little bit like dating and realizing like, hey, am I getting something out of it? Do we feel like partners in a lot of it when it's like getting up and running? Not all the dating metaphors obviously work as well, but generally speaking, in terms of how you should consider it, there's definitely a relationship that forms, and it's good to know, all right, these guys are there when you need them, versus they go on holiday too and they'll call you back in 2 weeks.
If that. We've had that case too. All right, if you want to stop sharing your screen for a second there, we are going to attempt, and I'm going to say attempt because this is the first time I've used Zoom quizzes. If you don't see a quiz come up when I tell you it's up, it just means that that you don't have a up-to-date version of Zoom, apparently. So I'm going to apologize in advance. And what I can do is read out the questions and you can try to guess at them and write down the answers. But we have about 9 gift cards to give away. So trying to weed out partners, you're welcome to play, but prefer that you don't win. Or I guess we don't want to trade cards back and forth to each other. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Launch. Okay, I have launched it. There are 10 questions. Do people see it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Start. And is there anybody who doesn't see it? Okay, I expect you all to be answering this right now. And
I don't see it there.
oh, I'm sorry,
You mean
Mel.
the movie by single one, right? Because not the franchise of Die Hard and Home Alone, and I don't know if Elf ever had a franchise, but
The single Die Hard.
It says
Elf
Carol.
should have a fan.
Right, so
I
the
don't
first
see it
question is,
either, Susan. Sorry.
okay, so the
But-
questions are, and don't shout out the answers because people are answering them. I see that already. What holiday movie was the highest grossing? Die Hard, Home Alone, Elf, Miracle on 34th Street. I've seen one person answer. Anyone else answering? Hey, Mel, I told you not chat. Number 2, what song does Lucy ask Lucy, keep it to yourself, does Lucy ask Schroeder to play on his piano in A Charlie Brown Christmas? Jingle Bells, Joy to the World, Silent Night, Frosty the Snowman. Number 3, what was the name of the magician with the magic hat in the 1969 TV special Frosty the Snowman? Black Peter, Professor Hinkle, Professor Finkel, Black Bart. And number 4, what English monarch established the Christmas tree tradition in Great Britain? Victoria, George II, Henry VIII, Elizabeth I. In the 12 Days of Christmas, there are how many drummers drumming? 8, 12, 6, or 10? Number 6, what is the best-selling Christmas song? All I Want for Christmas, White Christmas, The Little Drummer Boy, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Number 7, how many ghosts appear in A Christmas Carol? 2, 3, 4, 5. And number 8, this is my favorite. What do many Japanese people eat for Christmas? Sushi, KFC fried chicken, turkey, or noodles? Number 9, how many characters did Tom Hanks play in the Polar Express? 3, 4, 5, or 6? And the last one, what is the most recorded Christmas song? White Christmas, Single Night, Silent Night, sorry, what I'm saying. White Christmas, Silent Night, Deck the Halls, and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So I'm going to, I can see like a lot of people are starting to answer. Got like 10 people answering so far, 11. Gonna give everybody a few more minutes.
Is this actually being presented on screen?
If you had an up-to-date Zoom, yes, you would be seeing it and you'd be able to answer it.
I
So-
just updated my Zoom and I see it now.
Oh, great. Quickly, catch up.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Back.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you're not on an up-to-date Zoom, it doesn't work. I tried it with my girlfriends. I was so mad at them. They all have old Zoom. So then I had to go and try it with husband. So I was running from one, because they're both working from home, running from one room to the other, putting up the quiz, running over to his Zoom, going like, do you see it? Do you see it? So I've got 12 people answered so far. Looks like a lot of questions are in. Does anyone need more time? 13 questions answered. Anyone need more time? Because I'm going to end the poll in a moment. 14, I got 14 people have finished. Mel, poor Mel. I'm sorry, honey. Sorry that your Zoom didn't work.
Needed to let us
15.
know in advance you're using an advanced Zoom.
You're right. You're right. And the reason for that is that originally we were trying to use Slido, and then Danny's not here this week. He's unfortunately out of town and didn't have Slido. And anyway, so we quickly tried to try something else. And then I put it all up in Zoom, and then I was a bit annoyed that didn't work for everyone. Yeah. Okay, I have 19 of 30, 63% people. So I have 16 people have answered. Do we still need more time? All right, I'm going to end the poll, and I'm going to hand over to Joanne to get some picture taking of Christmas trees. Oh, sorry, ugly Christmas sweaters. Well, Christmas trees, those two. While I quickly try to review who got the most points. It might be difficult,
Yeah.
but I'll do my best.
Carolyn, yeah, I think you're going to put your sweater back on. So yes, please do. And I'm going to see if I can pin you guys.
Yeah, I wasn't warm enough actually.
Can I pin more than one person? Okay, you know what? I will just pin, why don't I just do one at a time first? So let's get Jimmy. I've pinned you, Jimmy. So can I get you to stand up or a little bit higher so that I can see your face and your logo and your sweater? Perfect. And then I'll just grab a screen capture. Yes. Okay. And then let's see if I can get Alex. One sec here. View gallery. And we'll pin Alex. Make him big. All right. That's awesome. Okay. Cool. Got it. All right. And then Carolyn. Oh, you're not putting it on. Okay. Oh, you know what? You're okay. Oh, okay. Perfect. That should work. All right. So while Susan's gathering up the results of the quiz, does anyone want to share kind of what they're doing for the holidays, or is anyone going anywhere? Anywhere fun? Any travel planned? Anyone?
No travel planned.
No.
No, my wife and I are expecting our second on the 20th of December, so we're gonna be at home.
Oh,
Oh,
congrats.
nice. Yes.
Very nice, very nice. Any other news with the Toronto, Montreal, Quebec City clan? Anything fun and exciting? Any wins? No. Everyone's very quiet.
Right.
How much more time do you need, Susan?
I don't think I need too much more time.
Okay.
I'm finding this rather actually difficult to
tabulate?
To tabulate. So I have the results up, but if everybody can just mark down for themselves, I can tell you, we'll just go through the results of this. Can you see that the correct answer up, or is that showing to you?
Yes.
Okay, so Home Alone, most people got it. So that's 1 point for most people. The answer for Charlie Brown, that was a hard one. And that was, the answer was Jingle Bells. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We only got like a few people that got that. And then most people put Professor for who was the magician. Most people said Professor Finkel, but it's actually Professor Hinkle. So we're only like a couple of people that got that one. So Dawood, Martin, Irene, you got that one. Most people got that wrong. The other one for the English monarch one was Victoria. And so that one again was a tricky one and couldn't quite get that one. Most people got this one, 12 Days of Christmas. The correct answer was 12 Drummers Drumming. The best Christmas song, best-selling Christmas song was White Christmas. And it's funny how many people went for All I Want, who went for All I Want for Christmas, the Mariah Carey one. And then How Many Ghosts Appeared? Christmas Carol, it was actually 4. Most people think 3. I actually thought it was 3 as well. It's 4. Now this was funny. This is such a weird trivia. What do Japanese people eat for Christmas? That is so weird. KFC, really? I guess it's close to turkey, maybe. How many characters did Tom Hanks play? He actually played 6, so not very many people figured that one out. What is the most recorded Christmas song? I actually thought it would be White Christmas as well, but it is Silent Night. And that is the last of them. Okay, so everybody did really kind of all over the map, because so I don't see some true outstanders, but I have lots of gift cards. And so I need the following people who participated. I'm sure I can give you a card for Marc-Antoine, Dennis Boisvert, and I'm trying Alex, again, you're double dipping, Sylvain Lantier, let's see, Irene, and Etienne, Wendy, Priyanka. Okay, and Saeed. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. So you're all winners, except those were our non-partner people. Sorry, the rest of you did pretty good, actually. That was really fun, and I hope to have a better poll one later on when we get more practiced at this. So those 9 people that I just called out, I'm just going to share again my screen. You can see that's my results. That didn't work out so well. I wish they'd do it more for than just a spreadsheet. So first of all, if I called out your name, email toronto_canada@atlassiancommunity.com. If you forget that or don't write it down in time, just reach out to your ACE leader on the ACE page. You can just reach out, like to say, ask the leaders of questions on the event pages that you sign up for. We do hope to send out recording or slide shares if our presenters would be willing to share their deck. We will be thank you very much. We will be putting that up in our wrap up. And I just want to say a big thank you to everybody for participating. We had 42 people attend at one time. Like, that is absolutely amazing. I'm just thrilled to have so many people show up and be a part of this one. And I think I said it last year when we did a holiday one, oh, we'll see each other in person next year, but I guess it's going to be one more year. So hang in there, people. We will meet again in person. I just want to thank everybody so much, and thank you so much for the idea, JP, who I think went off to feed his baby. And thank you, Martin, for collaborating for us. It's really fun to bring together a couple of ACEs virtually, and I think that we will be doing more of that in the future, so we can get a bigger crowd and great speakers like we had today. So thank you, everybody. Have a great holiday. I miss you all in person so much, and I can hardly wait